So there are four missions in Ukraine. If you kind of like split the country into quarters vertically, so there's well, with the current political events, there's currently only three. But so the four missions in Ukraine: Lviv, Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk, and Donetsk. There's only the Lviv mission, which is on the furthest western portion of the country, bordering Poland, is the only one that has Ukrainian-speaking missionaries. And the other three missions, everyone is called Russian-speaking. So I didn't even hear any Ukrainian or at all till my last area, which was further up north in Poltava. It was the closest city in our mission to Kiev, and that was the only area where I ever heard any Ukrainian. So there is a temple. The church is growing. If you look at, so the first missionaries got there in end of 1990, very beginning of 1991. Can't remember exactly where. And they had originally come from they're part of a different mission. There was no mission there, and then they sent in a few missionaries. The first missionary is actually there. He was Russian Ukrainian by birth, but he'd grown up in Australia, and so that's where his family joined the church. And so he was colony sent back, and so they had nothing. There was no branch, there was no anything. They were just like them. They put them in the capital. And so if you look at from where they were, if you look at the growth of the church in the first 20 years, from first missionaries touching down to 20 years later, Ukraine and Russia, the Eastern Europe area, is actually the fastest growing. At least in time, that's one thing they told us, that it was the fastest growing area in the world. So from where they were with from zero to the first 20 years, it's more than the Philippines or Brazil or South America, which is kind of amazing to me because I see where all those places are now, but still see how, when you go to church and there's 15 people there in this little branch, how young the church still is. But there is a temple there. The temple was announced in 1998, but it wasn't, because of legal things and working with the government, it wasn't actually finished being built in 2010. And so I was in the MTC doing the temple dedication, and on my way home from my mission, I was able to spend a day in the capital and to spend a day at the temple. But there's a temple there. It's one of the most heavy used temples in the world. So it's pretty much every session is full, and it's always, I'm amazed at the sacrifices that people make and how often they try to go to the temple. But in the country itself, there's only one stake in the capital. And even in the Dnipropetrovsk mission, when I was serving there, there was a district, which is a smaller stake made up of only branches. But they hadn't, then after I'd been out for about a year, they dissolved the district, to try to put more of the leadership in the branches to help them out. And so everything is just under the mission president. So he's kind of has to act as the mission president and the stake president. But so the church is still very, very young, and there's a lot of, I served in a branch presidency, and it's, kind of the point now where it's getting, now that there's a lot more people who have gone on missions, who are coming back from their missions, who are, native members, native to Ukraine and Russia. There's a lot more strength and, people having just a lot more experience, because there's actually people who have, were baptized when they were 4, or their families were baptized when they were 4 or 5, and they got baptized when they were 8, or they were even born in the church. And now that they've been born in the church and have actually grown up around the church, there's starting to be this whole new generation of people who've grown up and seen how the church runs, instead of, there's, I know my first area, the branch president was made the branch president less than 6 months after he was baptized. He was the branch president, and then he served as the branch president for a decade. And so it's, going from that, where it's these people who haven't grown, and I think you kind of underestimate how much you see just how the church works, just growing up and hearing about your parents going to different meetings, and you have to seeing different things and working on different councils and organizationally, to, here's this council of people who are trying to run a branch or trying to organize these things, and they have only been there for, they've been a member for 2 months, and now they're trying to take on this huge thing. It made me very appreciative and kind of gave me understanding into church history and, how the early saints, how they're just kind of like trying to figure it out as they go and try to see, okay, that didn't work, let's try this. Okay, this works. Like, this is a good activity that people respond to. Like, we'll try doing that, and just trying to, just trying to really fly by the seat of your pants to figure out how things should be done.